Didn't think we'd ever get.
You know, she said.
How should we?
Now I have to find all of.
Signal when you got 1 minute.
I know they've been online because I heard them when I called over there. I heard that the thing is going.
All right, if we can get settled, so we can make some headway before public comment at 5:30. Mr. Albrecht, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I'm gonna turn it over to Chair Paul, and then we will start. I'm not sure.
Wait, it looks like it will be something.
It was our understanding that you were here just to answer questions. Do you need to do an opening statement as well?
EHG does have an opening statement prepared. However,
Can
we
you-
would like to make a motion.
State your
first.
name. State your name for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Nathan Mulvihill. I'm the attorney on behalf of the Air Quality Program.
I remember you from a few days ago. Seated over there.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so really quickly, EHD would like to motion to defer EHD's presentation pending a board decision on how it is going to proceed with the time remaining tonight. The board still has several pending motions it has deferred, as well as discussion on when it intends to close the record, deliberate, or any other necessary task to wrap up the hearing. Additionally, EHD would like to state that there is a concern that attempting to elicit testimony in the time remaining would result in possibly rushed and incomplete testimony. The program would object to such testimony being rushed and incomplete rather than fully elicited, as well as EHD remains a party to this proceeding with a validly noticed witness. Limiting or rushing his testimony would be a due process violation and a basis for appeal. Additionally, the program would preemptively object to any limitation on the parties having a reasonable opportunity to examine Deputy Director as required in New Mexico Statutes Section 74-2-6. Thus, we just wanted to give the board this information as it considers how to use the time remaining.
Mr. Mulvihill, just for your information, the time is 5:15. We're going to take a break at 5:30 for public comment. We'll reconvene at 6:30, and then you can take your time with Mr. Albrecht. Okay. But you can direct his testimony if that's what you're choosing to do at this time.
Just to be clear, is there a decision on the motion?
Motion is denied.
And can I proceed to opening then?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, hearing officer, members of the board. My name is Nathan Mulvihill, and I am here on behalf of the Environmental Health Department's Air Quality Program, along with my co-counsel, Ms. Kelsey Sona, and our witness, Deputy Director Christopher Albrecht. Today, the program is asking the board to not adopt the proposed rule or any of its versions, but I would first like to start with addressing our presence here today. As you know, as a city agency, we are required to comply with the law, which includes the resolution adopted by City Council this Monday, R-23-176, and thus cannot be present during the remainder of the hearing. So why are we here today? Well, first, Mr. Albrecht's testimony was already a pending obligation per the notice of intent we filed on November 17th. That is docket number 175 and docket number 175.1. Second, the resolution specifically prohibits the city from expending its resources to facilitate making, adopting, or amending a regulation or standard. However, Mr. Albrecht's testimony here does not facilitate such because the program is asking the board to not adopt, make, or amend such proposed rule. Moving on, as other parties have indicated during this hearing, the proposed rule is a great starting point for everyone coming together to begin making progress on a serious issue. However, the proposed rule is just that, a starting point. It is currently not in a form that can be implemented or enforced by the program. Furthermore, it is unclear that the Air Board has authority to adopt a public health regulation. For those reasons, the program does not support its adoption. But where do we go from here? The city has heard loud and clear the several comments that EHD needs to step up and lead in this process, but to do so with the input from all communities, including those that are disproportionately impacted, such as the Mountain View community, amongst others. The Pueblos, business entities, government agencies, and the people of Albuquerque and Bernalillo County as a whole, in a rigorous stakeholder process before anything is filed. There were genuine attempts by the parties to come together in the pre-hearing process, a foundation that we can continue to build upon. I think those present will agree that we were on a good track, but time was cut short due to unforeseen circumstances. Additionally, the Environmental Health Department has begun developing its public health division to address public health concerns. It is currently funded through fiscal year 24. Lastly, the program would like to continue on the progress we have already made with the proposed rule in EHD's filed perspective, to develop a rule that addresses the issue but is also fair to all, a rule that is possible to implement and enforce, and features discussion of exemptions as appropriate, fits into the current regulatory scheme, and has EHD gathered the information necessary for the regulated community. So with that, we look forward to continuing work on this in the future in what is hopefully a very thorough and detailed process. Thank you.
Thank you. You've got about 10 minutes of examination, and then we'll take a break at 5:30 for public comment, and then you can continue your direct examination at 6:30.
Thank you. So EHD calls Christopher Albrecht to the stand to elicit questions about his experience and qualifications and hope to provide proper foundation for cross-examination questions seeking the technical testimony about the proposed rule.
And he has been sworn. You may proceed.
Please state your name and spell it for the record, please.
Christopher Albrecht, CHRISTOPHER, last name's Albrecht, ALBRECHT.
Can you briefly summarize your previous positions in air quality and environmental compliance contained in your resume, starting with GeoMet?
I started my air quality career in 1989 for GeoMet Technologies. GeoMet Technologies was a contractor to the Department of Transportation. I was hired along with a team of about 20 to do air quality monitoring and tobacco studies on commercial airlines. So I spent my first 9 months of my career and the team traveling the country and traveling all around the world. We would go from city to city and we would gather air quality data. My big role in that was actually doing the data reduction in there. So every evening we download a laptop. I would review all the data, metadata, all the air quality, personal monitoring data, carbon monoxide, particulate matter. That was my job for that period. After GeoMet, it was outside of Baltimore, Maryland. That's my hometown. I thought I wanted to be there. A very cold winter chased me back to Albuquerque. But maybe I'll back up. I have a bachelor's of science in biology with a concentration in ecology from UNM. I came back to Albuquerque and I was hired by Class 1 Technical Services, who is a local air quality consultant firm. I was there for approximately 9 years, and my job functions were everything starting off as an environmental technician, and I would install meteorological towers, air monitoring stations, air chemistry stations, particulate monitors for clients throughout New Mexico. Lots from the mines up in the Northwest, the coal mines in the Northwest part of the state, La Plata, Navajo, and San Juan mines. Also did a lot of work for Intel, P&M, and a lot of the copper mines down south in New Mexico. Really did a lot of work in the field. I was responsible for going in the field to ensure all this information, all the monitoring equipment were functioning correctly. And if it wasn't, I had to troubleshoot it and fix it. Every month we would have to reduce all those data. So all the meteorological data, all the air chemistry data, particulate data, PM10, TSP, we would QA and QC that. Along with that, I moved on to doing more of the quality assurance. So I actually went and I would quality assure quarterly audits on these facilities as well. I then soon started getting into the air dispersion modeling and the air permitting. So as a consultant, I would represent businesses and would prepare air quality permit applications, do air dispersion modeling back when it was ISCST and back in the day. And I did that up until the point of time where I went to the City of Albuquerque Air Quality Division. I worked in Air Quality Division for 10 years, and I started off as a permit engineer, worked my way up to a scientist, to a supervisor, and then a manager within 4 years. My duties there were everything from reviewing permits, processing permits. I probably reviewed and processed hundreds of air quality permits. I then became a supervisor overseeing that activity. So the permitting and technical analysis section, which is air dispersion modeling and emissions inventory, I had direct oversight of that. So I would actually review the permits, check the work of everything, QA it, and would issue those permits. I then became the manager, and all the duties were the same thing, all the way above. I would oversee the enforcement compliance section, the air permitting section, small business assistance, and emissions inventory. From there, I went over to the aviation department. Aviation department did not have an environmental or sustainability program manager, and they created a position down there. I was responsible for the Albuquerque Sunport and the Double Eagle airports. I was responsible for the entire air quality permit program, the NIPDES, which is the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, which is stormwater. So I was responsible for developing stormwater plans, doing the inspections, doing all the QA on that. Also, I was responsible for the hazardous waste program. So anything hazardous waste at those two locations, the spill prevention, control, and countermeasures plan. So the noise program, anything having to do with environmental, that was under my purview, and it was a staff of one, me. So I was responsible for doing all those duties for both airports. It's probably really good to know is I was not only responsible for overseeing that and advising the Sunport and Double Eagle, but every one of the tenants that were in both of the airports. So all the airlines, all the contractors that airlines, all the fixed base operators like Qatar Aviation and Atlantic Aviation, FedEx, UPS, I was their advisor. My task was to make sure they were compliant with all environmental regulations at both facilities. Came close to retirement, which I'm at retirement age right now. Position opened up here in air quality. Air quality has been my bread and butter for all my life. It's one of those fields I really liked, and 34 years. So I've been doing air quality for 34 years. And right now I'm responsible for all the programs. So air quality, it's the permitting group, the technical analysis and air dispersion modeling group. I oversee the enforcement group, compliance group, small business assistance team, control strategies, which is our rulemaking team. I oversee the vehicle pollution management as well. So I've been in this role for 1 year and 4 months, and that's kind of my qualifications and in my background. I've done every job you could do in air quality. I've done just about every, from the bottom to the top to the middle. I was actually reviewing and writing permits when I first got on board here because we were so far behind in permits. So I assisted the team so I can catch it up on the permits. So
Thank you for your background and qualifications. Mr. Mulvihill, it might be a good time to break, and then we can take up his testimony at 6:30. And
Yes.
be mindful that the board does have the written testimony in the NOI and any further rebuttal or whatever's been filed. So be mindful of that. Anyway, we'll take a break from your testimony. We will start public comment in just a minute or so.
Thank you.
There's a list for those here that want to provide public comment. There's a list up there by Ms. Esther Armijo. public comment?
I've never seen anything like this.
Neither have I.
Yeah.
If there's a list, Ms. Estarmijo, you can call the first public commenter.
Do you want me to run that?
Yes, if you don't mind. And then,
It's already still set up. Here, I'll use this as well.
yeah, and you don't have to be tapping it. I can see it when it
I
starts.
think it goes off completely after a few more seconds.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think I have to cover it. That's weird. It goes dim and then
I'll
it
go
goes
get it,
off.
but I need to send this.
Do you want to start with our public? How many are on? Is there? All right, we'll take up our first in-person commenter. Please note that if there's any duplicates, they're going to be put toward the end of the line. And about halfway through this hour, I'm going to switch over to online public comment. First,
Richard Moore.
Mr. Moore, you can step forward. It's going to sort it out. Mr. Moore, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
You've got 3 minutes. I will signal you when you have 1 minute left, okay?
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hearing Officer, Board, Madam Chair, my name is Richard Moore. I'm co-coordinator of Los Arenas Institute, the Gardens Institute, which is a citywide, statewide environmental and economic justice organization. I also, for the record, would state that I'm co-chair of the White House Council on Environmental Justice. I'm also previous chair of the National Environmental Justice Advisory Council to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and I hold several other capacities. One, I would say that it's not quite surprising that over the last couple of days that we've heard from these various industries, and many of us in this room are very familiar with each other. The only time that we've ever seen each other, and there were some very important questions that was asked, is when the community calls for a get-together with business and industry. The only other time that the community has been contacted is when there's a hearing for a permit or so on. That's very important for us to understand. I do have to make this statement. I'm not too sure why the Environmental Health Department at this point has come in since they have not been present for the last couple of days. I do have to say, is it the stall time because we're short on time? And I will actually say to that to go along with it. This is a primary example of why the distrust continues to take place between some of the city agencies and some of these industries and so on. We work very well many times throughout the years with many business and industries. I will state for those that are here from DOE that I'm very, very familiar with the FACA rules, the Federal Advisory Council rules, and the state. So if you report back to me to the federal government or to the White House that I'm not presently here speaking at this time for the White House Council. So let's just take a look very quickly in these last 3 minutes. Well, we appreciate actually that we got 3 minutes because at the city council meeting, we got 1 minute. And then the other meeting, we got 2 minutes. But I'm going to read this very quick, hearing officer. What outreach has been done by Sandia and Kirtland when it comes to environmental justice communities? We've heard them talk about it. Do you know that there are 2 New Mexicans on the White House Environmental Justice Council? And has any of these individuals attempted to reach out to the 2 of us? Very interesting question. Can the county and the city confirm that they have considered if any of their regulatory processes may be discriminatory? We're here talking about Presidential Executive Order 14096. If they're familiar with that, and if they read it, then they'll see that we're talking about discrimination, we're talking about environmental racism, and we're talking about systemic racism. And I just appreciate at the end of the day that this board is allowing this hearing to take place. My last comment to keep with the time. EHD should not be here now to delay and end this hearing. So I thank you all. Stand tough, stand strong, and we appreciate you. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moore. Next,
Tere Minharis. I apologize if I got your name wrong.
good evening. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
You've got 3 minutes.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Tere Minhares, and I have lived in Albuquerque for 4 years and currently live in the Indian Moon neighborhood in zip code 87112 with both my parents and my partner. I am currently my father's part-time caregiver and received my master's degree in public health with a concentration in environmental health from the University of California, Berkeley. I have seen firsthand in my education and work the negative effects of poor air quality on the health and overall well-being of communities in the San Francisco Bay Area, specifically West Oakland, Bayview, Hunters Point, and Pittsburgh. Poor air quality contributes to respiratory and cardiovascular diseases, missed work and school days, which impacts the local economy and workforce, increased overuse of emergency services, and contributes to premature death. As my father's caregiver, he has utilized emergency and urgent care services several times a year for the last 4 years due to his chronic conditions. I have witnessed how overburdened and understaffed our hospitals are in Bernalillo and Sandoval County. I believe our healthcare systems cannot sustain additional health burdens brought on by poor air quality that is preventative through the HEEI. Positively, through my work and education in the San Francisco Bay Area, I was involved in contributing to a health impact assessment with Human Impact Partners in Oakland, California, the area's rapid transit system, and the city of Pittsburgh, California, which is a suburb of San Francisco. Public health advocates, community organizations, government, and businesses were able to pass legislation that protected the air quality of the community while also moving forward with economic and public transportation development. This occurred in 2009. These preventative and collaborative measures are not new or innovative. They are common practices across the country. They are common. Albuquerque, Bernalillo County, and New Mexico have the opportunity to both protect overburdened communities such as those in the South Valley and also move our economy forward in a sustainable way. I highly support the HEEI additions to the current Air Quality Board regulations and encourage all elected and appointed officials to do the same, including you all. Thank you for your service and this time to share our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next,
Annie Hanna.
good evening. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
Yes.
You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Ani Hanna, and I'm a mom, and I live here in Albuquerque. And I just want to tell you a personal story. Right down here at Presbyterian, my twin boys were born prematurely at 29 weeks. And so they came almost 3 months early, and they were so tiny. They were only 3 pounds. But when you have medical fragile babies, you're suddenly aware of everything, right? Any illnesses they might catch, their oxygen levels, their temperatures, the ounces that they put on every day. And going through that experience has really made me as a mother aware of our medically fragile community. Presbyterian NICU did an amazing job caring for them and got them ready to come home. And they've had very few complications. And so we've been really lucky about that. But one of my sons does get frequent headaches. And so he's just a person who's very sensitive to allergens and pollutants in the air. And even today, he came home with a headache. And I was like, it's so windy. It's, it's something in the air. And it's also related to our pollution issues. But as a new mother in Albuquerque, I just had no idea that we had bad air quality and that we're listed as the top 25 most polluted metro areas for ozone. The Environmental Health Department has not communicated with the public about pollutants in any visible, easily accessible, understandable way, right? It's only been through my own research and getting to know people in Mountain View and South Valley communities that I learned about our air pollution and how overburdened communities bear the brunt of this pollution. I think many people living in Albuquerque are really unaware of our poor air quality. And I do a lot of social media work and I get so many comments and they're like, what? I didn't know that that was an issue, okay? So I was also reading this morning NMED's presentation to the EIB, and we are out of compliance federally and on the state level. Our ozone levels are 0.073 parts per million, and the state standards are 0.066 parts per million. So we really have the opportunity with this regulation to care for our community. And to me, this really does come down to care. How do we show up and care for our community? And just like the care of newborn babies, we need to make decisions with the utmost care and love and the health for everyone in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next,
Nancy Singham.
not a problem. Good evening. You swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
You have 3 minutes.
So my name is Nancy Singham. I'm a retired APS kindergarten teacher, a current resident, former resident of the South Valley, and I'm also formerly representing the Climate Group 350 New Mexico, part of the international group 350.org. I've been sitting and listening to this testimony all week, the public testimony and others, and this afternoon I was just grappling with putting this in context. What does this mean? All this information. And so I sat down on my computer and this is what I wrote. The main message I want to convey today are really two. The first is the presence of everyone here today in this room isn't just about us and it isn't just about now. It has roots in a larger and wider global history going back at least to the 1800s. It's an economic history that encouraged unfettered large-scale exploitation of all natural resources without much thought to the consequences for living beings. It's a legal history that allowed this exploitation to enrich some beyond the imaginable while harming millions more greatly. And it's a scientific history that after years of unquestioned development is now able to create scientific models of our planet's living systems, and based on this science, sound a loud alarm that the harm we have been doing to our planet now threatens the life as we know it for our human species. Does this sound like hyperbole? It is not. The World Health Organization estimates that 91% of the world's population live in places that exceed WHO's air pollution standards. The Journal of Environmental Research shows exposure to just one pollutant, PM 2.5, was responsible for about 8.7 million global deaths in 1 year, 2018 alone. My second point is that we in this room today, working to resolve our local concerns about air pollution rules and who gets to set those rules, are joined in a global effort with similar groups from Nairobi to Bangalore, Lisbon to Shanghai. All of us as humans working to grasp the unique planetary danger we've created for ourselves and figure out positive ways to make our planet more livable. Yesterday, our local paper's editorial described our efforts here today as proof of a bureaucratic deep state showing outrageous evidence of extremism. I'm actually honored to count myself with the many other extremists who have testified before you this week on the harm that they have suffered from decades of exposure to health-damaging air pollution concentrated in one part of our city. But the editorial writers are not correct. This is not about petty insults and name-calling. We're engaged in a piece of critical and heroic global effort. And I'd like to thank all of you personally for the role that you're playing in this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next,
Ramiro Jordan.
do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
Yes, sir.
You've got 3 minutes. I'll
Thank you
signal
for
you
this
when you got.
opportunity and thank you for the job you're doing. And thank you everybody for being here, those people that are connected. I am a faculty, School of Engineering, Electrical and Computer at the University of New Mexico. And I am here because I'm a concerned citizen of the city and I'm a concerned global citizen. We're working, I started a program 33 years ago called Peace Engineering, dealing with looking at verifiable, trusted data. Trust is what's missing. And once you have that data, do something with it. And I think this is the appropriate time in the city, okay? What's at stake here also is disinformation and misinformation. Even if that data is trusted, people manipulate and jeopardize what it's all about: justice, equity, accessibility, inclusion, and diversity, and many more. What's also at stake is democracy and our freedom. So please keep a very broad mind on what you're doing here. We are going to hit a point of no return in 2030. This is all the scientists in the world say, point of no return. 6 years from now, we don't even have the talent to address those issues needed to address global challenges. This is one planet, one environment, one chance, independent of national anthems, race, and all of that. We messed up the planet and we got to do something. We got to start now. We cannot think in more delays for tomorrow. What's important too is that air quality and health now are correlated. The global body, the United Nations COP28, this week has merged those two. And that's the new measure. Not about ppm 2.520, it's about human lives. So this is the time to address all this. I want to finish by saying that with my students, we have produced a dashboard about water, air quality, health, and finance for the city of Albuquerque and the state. That will be released next semester. And I'm very proud of my students. And I thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Next,
Mark Rudd.
Mr. Rudd, you can testify from there if you'd like.
I know what that is. Is my wagon?
Yeah,
Could somebody please bring it up? Thank you. My name is Mark Rudd.
Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
Yes, of course.
You have 3 minutes. I will signal you when you have 1 minute left.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Today, I was home at our house at 506 Valley High Southwest, where we've lived. My family has lived since 1982. I originally built the house myself with my friends, and later, when Marta came along, we gutted it and built it a second time. And then 16 years later, we gutted. We went off for broke, and we built an Adobe addition. Anyway. Today at home, my friend from Isla de Pueblo, who is the governor, brought over some turnips. So I'm here basically on a turnip run where I'd like to give the members of the board a little regalito for all the work you did and all the work you've done over the years. And these are very sweet. You can make latkes with potatoes with it. You make anything you want. I will give each of you one. And then I'll leave the rest here for people. I wish there were more people who were against the ordinance, but because I would like to share the turnips from Isleta Pueblo with them. We in Albuquerque, one major fact about Albuquerque that's really important is we benefit from the Pueblos protecting us from development. And we know how to grow turnips for that reason. Now, Mr. Council Member Dan Lewis is attacking people, including some of you or all of you, as being job destroyers. Well, he's got it totally backwards. The problem is not not destroying jobs. Jobs are being destroyed as we talk. AI, which is just about a year old, has already produced strikes in the movie industry, and the problem is going to be what to do with people when the machines make everything. So he's got it backwards, Mr. Lewis. I invite you down to our palatial mansion in the South Valley and ask you to come and talk about these things reasonably. But you got it all backwards. The problem is going to be we have to relearn how to survive with the apocalypse that's coming. That's not an extreme issue. We have land in the South Valley. We have the Pueblos.
Sir.
We have survival.
If you can wrap it up in the next 15 seconds, I'll give you an extra 15 seconds. But
thank you.
Wrap it up. Okay. Thank you. And someone will help you with that.
So, these are very sweet. And they can keep them long. But you might want to cook them, you do whatever. Okay. And I did not wash them.
You can leave them right there by Mr. Armijo and he'll distribute them.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rudd.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think
I love turnips.
you can.
Thank you so much for the work that's done.
Thank
Any opponents are still here. I'd like to give people a little presence so they realize that we're all human beings and we're all human.
Thank you, sir. Next presenter.
Tom Lewis.
Raise your hand, Mr. Lewis. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
Yes,
You have 3 minutes.
thank you. I'm here as an Albuquerque native who's worked both in blue-collar occupations where environmental hazards were a serious issue and who's also owned and operated a couple of businesses that have employed, in one case, more than 100 people. That was a printing and publishing business. I've also been engaged in the environmental business involving installing and removing underground fuel storage tanks and piping and conducting environmental remediation at that type of site. Our projects included one at a small one at Kirtland, and I was also sent to do a tank replacement at Osan Air Base for the Air Force in South Korea. First of all, I want to make clear that I agree that the Mountain View Neighborhood Association has been severely harmed in the past by environmental neglect. But I'd like to make the point that it would be very difficult for that kind of harm to occur today with, again, with today's standards and permitting requirements. I think it's very important. Well, first of all, social justice requires more than just taking into account environmental concerns. Social justice also would require that people have meaningful opportunities for decent employment at decent wages and to develop their own businesses, which would better themselves as well as the community as a whole. I think the most important thing to do.
1 minute.
1 minute, okay. I think it's important that environmental regulations in the permitting process be reasonable, meaning that public health be protected while allowing responsible operation of businesses by employers, and that it not take 3 years to get a permit or have it denied. I might also suggest that the greatest risk to public health in Bernalillo County has nothing to do with air quality. I think it's more likely to be the result of obesity, which is a self-inflicted problem. And I don't say that too righteously because I suffer too from eat too much itis and exercise too little. So we need to look in the mirror as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Jennifer Owen White.
Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding? I'm not sure why that's
Yes, I do.
hard to get up. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. First off, I do want to thank the board for the time and attention that you've been given to this process and the opportunity for community members such as myself to share our thoughts. My name is Jennifer Owen White, and I'm representing myself and speaking today as a resident of Bernalillo County and as someone who works in the Mountain View community. Anyone who knows me knows that my job is my life, and I am so incredibly passionate about what I do that I currently spend 12 to 16 hours a day at my job, and I honestly wouldn't have it any other way. This is my dream job. I went to school to prepare for this. I got my bachelor's degree in biology and a master's in wildlife science. I started my PhD in forestry and natural resource interpretation, all so that I could have the career I have today. And as I mentioned, my job is in the Mountain View community. I spend almost all of my daylight hours at my dream job, and I can tell you that working in Mountain View is a benefit and a burden. I benefit every day because of the incredible people I get to work with. The kids at Mountain View Elementary School, their dedicated teachers, the gardeners at the El Jardín Community Garden, the people who work at the Mountain View Community Center, and our neighbors I get to see who walk their dogs or ride their bikes or go for hikes or ride their horses. I feel lucky every day that these are the people I get to see and interact with. But working in Mountain View is also a burden. Because of where I work and the disproportionate burden that the Mountain View neighborhood shoulders for industrial facilities and the resulting air pollution, statistics show that I am more likely to get cancer, respiratory disease, and cardiovascular disease. According to the National Institutes of Health, living or working in an area with high levels of particulate air pollution is associated with an 8% increase in the incidence of breast cancer. I have never smoked a single cigarette in my life, yet research in the Journal of the American Medical Association says long-term exposure to air pollution is like smoking a pack of cigarettes a day for many years. And the EPA has even found that increased exposure to outdoor fine particulate matter over just a few hours can trigger cardiovascular disease-related heart attacks and death. Just this year, the Department of Labor and OSHA urged employers to protect outdoor workers from hazards with poor air quality. So who's going to protect me? And can you help protect me? The residents of Mountain View and other overburdened communities, as well as those of us who work there, have the right to healthy, clean air. So I will continue to do the work I love so much, and I want to do it for decades. I hope my health allows me to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have time for 2 more in-person commenters, and then we'll move online for the remainder of the time. we may circle back if we don't have enough online. Next.
Alan Marks.
Do you swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Yeah, 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Ellen Marks. I've been living in the Mountain View community for 45 years. And the land that I live on was homesteaded in the 1880s, well before the industrial area was established and air permits were issued. I also wanted to just comment as well on Ms. Owen White mentioned working with Mountain View Elementary School, which was established in 1952, which also preceded any of the air permits and industrial development of the area. As you may well know, Mountain View Elementary is right across the railroad tracks from an asphalt plant, and the kids get to breathe that air every day. Most of you are familiar. I don't need to go into too much detail about Mountain View's, what we experienced there. We have the Albuquerque metal recycling. We have a chlorine plant, sewage treatment plant, transloading sites, chemical related plants, petroleum storage, Superfund sites. Air pollution permits have been issued at the expense of the vulnerable and overburdened community we live in. So what I wanted to do is, as a member of the Mountain View Coalition, I just wanted to share with you what our process has been with this regulation that's before you. Starting 2 years ago, we began to meet with EHD as well as other community members. From the time the petition was submitted to the board over a year ago, we've had multiple meetings with EHD. Each time we met, we asked for recommendations about how to improve our proposed rule. We did not receive any. But EHD has been in the loop for over a year, and that doesn't include all the meetings we had with them as we began the process. If they had concerns, they had the opportunity to raise those concerns. I've listened to so many lawyers and witnesses talk about lack of stakeholder involvement. And I know that that was Chair Paul's concern when we first submitted the proposal. Since we submitted the petition over a year ago, we've invited industry and other stakeholders to multiple meetings in our community to make suggestions for improvements to the proposed rule. Beyond that, stakeholders and party opponents have had the opportunity to submit red lines and suggestions throughout this past year. In addition, there were, I believe, about 4 pre-hearing meetings with opponents with the previous hearing officer. So the statement that stakeholders have not had input is not true. In all, have had a year to make thoughtful suggestions. One last thing, I just wanted to be clear that, our community has also recently been awarded a grant to start an EJ air monitoring program with approved certified devices. I just wanted you, that the community is going to be trained to use. So I wanted you to hear that. In sum, this has been a deliberative process and other parties have had the opportunity to participate. I want to thank the members of your board for your expertise, your service to our community as dedicated volunteers and the dignity you've shown. Thank you so much. Please support our AGI.
Thank you. I believe one of our board members has a question.
Yes.
Thank you for your comment. And just briefly, can you share a little bit more about which stakeholders you reached out to?
Since I did not know I personally did not know who all of the different entities were, but I know that they were invited into our community. And I also know that the meetings did take place with our attorneys as well.
Thank you.
Separately.
Thank you. One more in-person comment, and then we'll move online for the remainder of our time.
Cesar Abarca.
Do you swear to tell the truth?
I do.
You got 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. I just want to say for the record that I was waiting on Tuesday, December 7th on Zoom to give my testimony, and I waited for over 2 hours and nobody attended. And at the end, I was told that it was closed. So I just want to put it in the record that some of us who attended the Zoom meeting on Tuesday didn't get an opportunity to testify in this hearing. So thank you for the Air Quality Board and for the opportunity for us to testify in favor of our communities. My name is Cesar Abarca, and I'm a resident of the Kirkland Addition neighborhood. I'm also a member of Los Jardines Institute. As many of you know, my neighborhood is heavily bombarded by toxic chemicals in the air. Not only we have a lot of vehicles, commercial and particular vehicles on I-25 and Gibson, but also we have the Sunport Airport and the Kirkland Army Base. So those two combined produce a lot of toxics into the air we breathe, as well as the pollutants that are moved through the air from the Mountain View community. So we are very extremely concerned about the quality of the air that we breathe and the addition of many toxics that we already expose in other forms in the food that we eat, as well as the daily stressors that we live in our lives. So all these particular toxic matters are very unhealthy to all of us in my neighborhood. In my neighborhood, we're lucky that we have a public park in the backyard, but that's not enough to really offset the amount of chemicals that we expose in the air where we live and we breathe every day. So we are very concerned about the long exposure to pollution, the cumulative impacts to my respiratory system, as well as the exposure to other toxics. I suffered from allergies in my early 20s, and every time that I've been here, it's been really hard to really think about the quality of the air. So I really urge for the board to consider the implementation of the health, equity, and environmental impact regulation, as well as really protecting of air. And as many people know, we can live without water for several days, but we cannot live more than 3 minutes without air. So it's very, very important for us to keep the quality of the air, protect our families and our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll move to online comments.
Just to let you know, Mr. Hearing Officer, the rest of the in-person signups I have are those who have given comment on a previous evening.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll move online then.
Lewis Head.
Mr. Head, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
Yes, I do.
You've got 3 minutes. Please keep an eye on the clock.
Will do.
And, spell your last name, please.
It is like the one on your shoulders, H-E-A-D.
Thank you.
My name is Lewis Head, and I live at 802 Headingley Avenue Northwest, where I've resided for the past over 30 years. I am presently an employee of APS at Polk Middle School, and I work with dozens of families from the Mountain View community and elsewhere in the South Valley. However, I am speaking on my own behalf today. I am here, first of all, to express my support for the health, environment, and equity impacts regulation that so many have worked long and hard to bring about here in Bernalillo County and in the city of Albuquerque. I can speak to some of the history that led to the formulation of this much-needed regulation as I became involved in efforts to address environmental racism, a sinister reflection of the deep structural inequality that exists here in New Mexico over 40 years ago. At that time, I came to understand the deeper roots of such efforts here, going not only back to Earth Day in 1970, when Chicano youth fought to address problems of the old sewage plant, but really beyond that, to struggles over the control of land, water, and resources that have taken place over the past more than 150 years, and really far beyond that. The proposed regulation is a reflection of decades of work, especially of the people living in the Mountain View community south of Albuquerque. I recall my own involvement, working in support of longtime Mountain View residents in efforts to get safe drinking water to the community. We were onto something, and we were successful in forcing the U.S. Air Force to the table to discuss sources of the contamination of the residents' groundwater emanating from Kirtland Air Force Base. If only we had understood at that time what we know now, in terms of the devastating impacts of airborne contamination. Perhaps we might have obtained a regulation or ordinance along the lines of the HEEI much sooner. Obviously, there are people who do not want for testimony to see the light of day from people like myself, nor from those most directly affected, be they in Mountain View or any other part of the county. In a superficial sense, these include Dan Lewis of the Albuquerque City Council in the first instance and other public officials. But I speak more to the real centers of power that lay behind the Dan Lewises of the world, those who, when faced with democratic process and democratic participation in governments, will simply move to destroy institutions when they begin to lose battles in those arenas. This is an example of environmental racism and of environmental injustice. This tells me that this work has been effective, not only the past 5 years, but over the past 10, 20, 30, 50 years and beyond. The board should understand that the very term environmental justice took shape in practical ways in different parts of the world and of the United States. But let's never forget that New Mexico was one of the centers of that work and remains so. This reality in history tells us
Thank you, Mr.
that the
Head.
initiative is not dead because powerful industries and their city councilors say so. The work will
Thank
continue
you, Mr. Head.
for years.
Your
Thank
time
you.
is up. Thank you. Next.
Rich Weiner.
Yes, good evening.
Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
I certainly do.
You have 3 minutes. Please keep an eye on the clock.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I am a 32-year resident of Albuquerque, and as an older person and a person with asthma, I want clean air for myself and also for all residents of Bernalillo County. And we need clean jobs, but not any jobs. And so that's a really important thing. We're not allowed to destroy jobs. We want good ones. My heart especially goes out to the people of Mountain View community and other overburdened neighborhoods in Albuquerque and Bernalillo County. So I support this rule. And I applaud the courage of you people on the Air Quality Board in the face of incredible hostility. It's unbelievable to me that what has occurred this week did occur. I want to just tell two stories. When in 1966, I went to California for the first time. I spent the summer there. My first stop was in Los Angeles. I'm glad it was only my first stop. I spent the week there to visit relatives. It was smoggy as usual back then. And the entire time, the entire week I was there, I felt very, very lethargic. As soon as I got out of town heading north, I got back to my normal self. In 1986 or 1987, I was in Mexico City visiting some friends who were about to move south of the city. And I was there for about a day and a half. And during that day and a half, I was very lethargic. As soon as we were 20 miles outside of town, I came back to my normal self. So I really do want to see clean air for all of us. And I am aghast that 4 city councilors would try to censor us and stop us from expressing ourselves on this really important subject. And I want to thank you again for standing up to this bullying and allowing this hearing to go forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Next.
Penelope Maines.
I'm here.
Hello, Ms. Maines. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
Yes, I do.
You've got 3 minutes. Keep an eye on the clock.
I am Penelope Maines. I have been a resident of Albuquerque for 40 years. As Winston Churchill said, success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. I myself want to say thank you to the Air Quality Board for having the courage to continue these hearings this week. I support the HEEI regulations because everyone equally deserves clean air, good health, and a long life. We know dangerous pollutants can cause disease and shorten life with industry. Health studies have shown that the Mountain View residents have a 12-year lower life expectancy compared to more affluent neighborhoods in Albuquerque. That's a difference of over 4,300 sunrises, mostly sunny days, sunsets, and sweet nights. I urge the passing of HEEI regulations to rein in health-damaging industries for overburdened areas, come hell or Councilor Dan Lewis. We also know Bernalillo County is in the top 25 most polluted metro regions in the nation. Let's find out why the air is so bad here in Bernalillo County when we do have an environmental health department. I am told inspectors from the department will only inspect in certain working hours and that citizens cannot submit videos. It wouldn't take Bill Gates to know a business could do its most polluting work when inspectors are off duty. Pollution and polluters are a 24/7 issue. Let's get cracking and figure out how to give the Environmental Health Department a hand so they can address pollution realistically and engage more with all of Bernalillo County. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. Next.
Matt Cross.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Cross, do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
You've got 3 minutes. Keep an eye on the clock.
Hello, members of the board. I work in health promotion. I've watched most of the hearing online. Let's remember that an air permit is a polite name for legal permission to emit pollution which causes harm to people. How curious that companies that need to cause harm to people think that the process should be made easier. We've heard from permitting experts that the current process is good. If that were true, then we wouldn't need a definition for EJ communities. But we do have a definition because the current process isn't protecting everyone. We've heard a lot about data. It would be an interesting data point to know how many business owners of businesses that cause harm to health actually live in the same neighborhoods as their business. Imagine if that was in the rule. As economic impact is discussed, it seems like we are only thinking about businesses that cause harm. Does the system not offer incentives to businesses that don't cause as much harm, but also have economic benefit? Several lawyers have commented that this hearing process has been different. They seem uncomfortable. This process is challenging and changing the power dynamic of permitting, and that will make some people uncomfortable. It's mind-boggling when precaution is legally used. An example, a person can be arrested and charged with DWI even before causing harm to someone. But within air quality, we really have a hard time applying precaution, even when we have data. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Next.
May Sagbakken.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, Ms. Sagbakken, do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
Yes, I do.
You've got 3 minutes. Keep an eye on the clock.
Yes, my name is Mai Sagbakken. I'm a 30-year resident of the South Valley of Albuquerque, and I've been a nonprofit director for most of my time here. I'm originally from Norway. And I have to say, I am so positively surprised to listen to everyone so engaged in air quality. I did not know that we had so many passionate individuals, including you, the board, involved in making sure we have clean air. I have noticed over the last few years an ozone alert every single day. I cannot be outside in the summer because I get headaches, I get asthma from ozone. So I have to go my walk 6 in the morning or 8 at night. And it did not used to be that way. And I am kind of baffled to hear that UNM Sandia, the commerce departments, city council members are fighting an effort to improve air quality for all of us. You would think that they, just as me and you, and would want clean air for themselves and their children, or at least for the ones who they represent. Because I know in terms of the air quality, it's not only in the South Valley anymore, it's pretty much citywide, even though it's more concentrated in the neighborhood that we've been discussing tonight. But I've also become more aware that the citizens in our city are not aware how bad it is. So I appreciate all the work you've been doing. I really appreciate this hearing, making me aware of ongoing efforts. And I hope that, you succeed with this effort and new regulations so that we all, citizens of Albuquerque, can breathe and be healthier. Thank you so much. And I hope everything goes forward as planned.
Thank you. Next.
Karen Bonim.
Ms. Bonnie, can you hear me?
There, okay.
Ms. Bonnie, do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
Yes, I do.
You've got
My
3
name is
minutes.
Karen Bonin, and I have lived with air pollution in other areas that was very severe at times. And I get headaches when the air is bad. And I know that other people do also. And there's no excuse for this. And I know the Air Board is making a wonderful attempt to do something about it. And I just can't believe the city council is overriding the mayor's veto, changing their votes, some of them, including my city councilor. It is mind-boggling. When I lived in Southern California, in Ojai, about 84 miles north of LA, once in a while, the smog from LA, this was in the 70s, would blow out to sea, and then the wind would shift and bring it into our sort of sucked in valley. And my eyes would sting, and it was horrible. You couldn't even see. And then I moved north to Ukiah, California, and in the wintertime, especially when people were using wood stoves, and we had a masonite plant, and I would get headaches when the air was bad because we had inversions. It was a narrow valley, and the air would just get trapped under an inversion layer, and I would get headaches, and I would go for a walk up into the mountains that surrounded the valley on both sides. And I could look down, once I got above the inversion layer, I could look down and see chimneys with smoke rising and bending at a right angle when it hit the inversion layer. It was so stark. And one time the fire department had a practice burn on a no burn day. And oh my gosh, the air was horrible. But that's not what you're trying to deal with. You're just trying to deal with the air quality that we have here. I was so shocked this summer to find out that we had ozone alerts almost every day. It was just mind-boggling. I thought we had good air. I do know that citizens, when they are determined, can make a difference, because when I lived in Ukiah, we convinced the Mendocino County Air Quality Board to change their regulations for new sources. And we borrowed a lot from San Luis Obispo County and 2 other counties that together formed an air quality district. And because we had citizens who supported us, they knew they had to at least compromise with us, and we got some great improvements. So I want to encourage everyone, every citizen who cares, to keep trying. And I want to thank the Air Board for your wonderful work and your courage. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bona. We've got time for 2 more comments. We'll take the next one.
All right, I have one more new in-person commenter, Elizabeth Gallagher.
Ms. Gallagher, can you hear me? Oh, she's here. Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
Yes.
You got 3 minutes. I'll
All right.
signal you when you got one left.
All right, thank you. My name is Elizabeth Gallagher. I have lived almost my entire life in New Mexico and have lived in Albuquerque the last 7 years and in the South Valley for the last 3. From 2017 to 2020, I worked each week in the Mountain View community. I learned from Los Jardines Institute, the Mountain View Neighborhood Association, and the Friends of Valle de Oro about the years and years of harm, pollution, and health impacts of the industries that have treated this area as disposable and sacrificial. I fully support the HEEI regulation because it is a straightforward, community-led, and scientifically sound rule to support healthy and clean air. It is a fact that many communities in Bernalillo County, namely the South Valley and Mountain View neighborhood, have a disproportionate amount of air pollution due to heavily polluting industry in the area. These communities are made up of predominantly working class and low-income residents of color. Bernalillo County and the city of Albuquerque have systematically allowed industries to harm them through environmental racism and injustice for generations. Every single one of us deserves to have clean air to breathe, and if these industries will be harmed by common sense regulations that protect our right to healthy air, then those industries are who need to bear the burden of changing how much damage they are doing to our environment. The Air Quality Control Board is well equipped to evaluate new air pollution permits using the HEEI to protect overburdened communities and pushing for cleaner industry and pollutant control that these businesses absolutely have the money and power to do something about. I find it horrifying and absurd that industries with federal funding like Sandia Labs and Kirtland Air Force Base, along with members of City Council like Dan Lewis with oil and gas interests, have been trying to halt these proceedings and stop the Air Quality Control Board from doing what it was created to do. They are going against the best interests of the residents of Bernalillo County and Albuquerque, especially communities of color who have led the way to fight for clean air for us all. I live near the Bosque and by the river, and one of my favorite things to do is taking the kiddos in my life to this amazing place. I grieve and I cry when I think of these children and children throughout our community not being able to breathe clean air while they play near the river, being at higher risk for respiratory illnesses because the adults who should know better are destroying their environment and their futures for money. The city and county and businesses can do better, and the HEEI provides opportunity to do just that. Thank you.
Thank you. We have time for one more.
Mr. Hearing Officer, the rest of those on my list are those who have given comment on a previous night.
Okay.
So it's
I was handed a note that Peggy Norton had signed up for public comment, but had she commented previously?
I do have her on my list for a previous night, yes.
Okay. I think we'll stop right there. Oh, okay. Come forward. I'll give you 3 minutes. Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
My name is Peggy Norton, and I did testify the other night. I represent the North Valley Coalition. I happened to tune in this morning when I think it's Robert Caldwell and the 2 other people were talking about the asphalt plant. And I really just wanted to clarify some of the comments that I heard. I didn't hear the whole talk, and I've already changed my comments just from talking to a couple people here. One of the questions was it was going to be difficult to notify neighborhood associations and get a listing of them. There is an Office of Neighborhood Coordination that has that. There's one for the city, one for the county. I was trying to find a record of violations for facilities, and I had a hard time finding that. I don't know if that's available at some website. In any case, if it isn't, it should be and should be part of the regulation. And over 2 years ago, we did receive notification of that application for the air permit. At that time, we could submit public comments. However, due to the complexity of the information, I had no idea how to respond and relied on the HD to do the appropriate analysis. I could have requested, did they do cumulative impacts? Did they consider the asphalt plant down the road, the cement plant down the road, the truck terminal behind them? But there was nothing in place to do that. And the zone permit, as I understand, that has changed, that now the application for an air permit, I guess 6 months ago, it was changed. So there is a block to check that the zoning is appropriate. So I'm glad to see that. A site plan is still, as I understand it, not required because these are temporary equipment, not structures. And so there is no approval for site plan. Is that my 1 minute?
Yes.
Okay. So I think those few things maybe will be fixed in this. I want to state how much I've learned during this hearing, and thank you for holding this. I respect the time committed by the board volunteers to consider community impacts without financial rewards. I've been very impressed with the diversity of people and ideas that have been here. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe we're done with public comment. We'll go ahead and take a 10-minute break.
Can I make a quick announcement before that break?
Sure.
We have all been here a long time, but Anita Sarmijo, works at EHD, has been here longer than all of us every day, doing a ton of work, and I think she needs a huge round of applause. We rely on her for all of the board's administrative needs, so I just want to thank her on behalf of the whole board for all this.
10-minute break.
Mr. Hearing Officer, this is Member Richards. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Would you mind asking the Ms. Norton if she can provide her written statement or her written public comment to Anita?
Yes.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Norton and the others in the public, you can all submit written comment if you didn't have the opportunity for public comment. I did see a hand back there. Was there someone that we missed? One person that we missed? Step forward. We'll give you 3 minutes. We're done after when this is. Oh,
Until the close of the proceeding.
Until the close of the proceedings. Go ahead. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
I do. Thank you so much, Public Hearing Officer and board members. My name is Magdalena Avila. Yes, M-A-G, D as in doll, A as in apple, L-E-N-A as in apple. And then Avila, A-V as in Victor, I-L-A. I'm a associate professor emeritus from the University of Nuevo Mexico. My area of expertise is public health, community health. And for many years, I've been teaching and working with communities around the state on community health issues. Most importantly for me is that I am a resident of Mountain View, almost going on 30 years. Been raising our daughter who is medically fragile. She falls within the #1 category of the most medically fragile children in the state of New Mexico. And so we contend with these issues every single day. I do ask the question why the HEEI is causing so much fear when it's a public health protection factor regulation that we are trying to implement. They seem to be pushing a lot of hysterical fear around it. It doesn't seek to erase industry, but to hold it accountable, especially if it does not qualify as green industry. That is our right as a community, a public health right to do that and require that. Industry emissions become our way of life, and soon we can no longer differentiate the healthy from the unhealthy. To quote one of the leading social epidemiologists in the country, Nancy Krieger, we, communities such as ours, embody all the toxins and pollutants around us. We carry it just like we're carrying insidious amounts of microplastics that are ultimately impacting our health, each with its own chemical makeup and toxicity. And that's almost really impossible to differentiate on a daily basis. Industry wants us to take the green pill, But we as communities know what it is to live on the red pill. We're living the realities of being in a toxic environment and breathing in and being what we are, like the canaries in the mines. Those of us living in Mountain View are bombarded by thousands of diverse chemicals. Stanford scientists have measured the human exposome, or particulates, chemicals, and microbes that individually enwrap us all in unprecedented detail. Using a re-engineered air monitoring device, scientists from Stanford recently have peered into the plume and discovered a smorgasbord of biological and chemical minutia that is around us, that we live on and represent.
Thank you very much. We'll take about a 10-minute break, especially for the court reporter. So